Howdy, howdy, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another spooky story. Today we have ourselves a possible banger, a 12-year-old banger, for sure. Oh, that sounds weird. Today's story is 12 years old by Mike Rance, and it is called Bedtime. Ooh, spooky.
Spooky. I can't even begin to have a thought because the name alone is very broad, and we literally know nothing about it. So yeah,
I feel like we're in for a good one. All right.
milk it.
I can. Do you want me to start it and then you take over eventually, or?
Yeah, sure.
All right, here we go. We got ourselves Bedtime by Mike_Rance. Also, like always, you can find the story in the description below. So,
As well as scissor.com.
let's get into the story. Bedtime is supposed to be a happy event for a tired child. For me, it was terrifying. While some children might complain about being put to bed before they have finished watching a film or playing their favorite video game, as I was a child, nighttime was something to truly fear. Somewhere in the back of my mind, it still is. As someone who is trained in the sciences, I cannot prove that what happened to me was objectively real, but I can swear that what I experienced was genuine horror. A fear which, in my life, I'm glad to say, has never been equaled. I will relate it to you all now, as best as I can. Make of it what you will, but I'll be glad to just get it off my chest.
Nice.
Off the bat, sounds like she had a bad childhood. I can't remember exactly when it started, but my apprehension towards falling asleep seems to correspond with my being moved into a room of my own. I was 8 years old at the time, and until then, I had shared a room quite happily with my older brothers. As if perfectly understandable for a boy 5-year-old.
Okay. It's a boy.
Yep, is a boy. Understandable for a boy 5 years my senior. My brother eventually wished for a room of his own, and as a result, I was given the room at the back of the house. Kind of weird.
Yeah.
You're in the back of the house. Get back there.
Well, growing up in my childhood home, I slept. Every single bedroom in that house was my bedroom. I just kept getting downgraded to the smallest room as time went on. So yeah, I can relate to that.
Damer. It was a small, narrow, yet oddly elongated room, large enough for a bed and a couple chests of drawers, but not much else. I couldn't really complain because even at that age, I understood that we did not have a large house, and I had no real cause to be disappointed, as my family was both loving and caring. It was a happy childhood during the day. Oh, a solitary window looked out onto our back garden. Nothing out of the ordinary, but even during the day, the light which crept into the room seemed almost hesitant. As my brother was given a new bed, I was given the bunk beds, which we used to share. While I was upset about sleeping on my own, I was excited at the thought of being able to sleep at the top of the bunk, which seemed far more adventurous to me. From the very first night, I remember a strange feeling of unease creeping slowly from the back of my mind. I lay on the top bunk, staring up at my action figures and car strewn. Is that strewn?
Strung.
Strun? English is weird.
I know, strewn. You're right. My bad.
Oh, was it strewn?
Yeah, you're right. It's strewn. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like the past tense.
I gotcha. Cars strewn across the green-blue carpet as imaginary battles and adventures took place between the toys on the floor. Wow, simple times.
Dude, I relate to that.
Yeah.
Did you ever play the Need for Speed games on PS2 as a kid?
I didn't have a PlayStation until I was like fucking almost to high school.
So you had like a PlayStation 3.
I got a PlayStation 3 when after The Last of Us came out, like a year after
Oh,
it came
that's
out.
PS. Yeah, that's PS3. Yeah, I
Yep,
forgot that came.
yep,
Oh my god, that came out on PS3. That's like
yeah.
GTA 5 came out on PS3.
So it was more like 2013 when I got one, or
Okay.
14. So I did not play Need for Speed.
Something that I used to do, he's talking about like, playing games with his toys. I used to play Need for Speed Underground 2, and like Need for Speed Most Wanted. And some of the songs that were on Need for Speed Underground 2 were on Now That's What I Call Music, like 2005 or some crap. So like around that time, I would just like play the music on my little boombox thing and then play my cars and like showcase them like you can in the game. That's what I
Yeah,
used to
that's
do.
funny. Childhood was so easy. I want to go back.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Uh,
It's just
when's it?
sadness up here in the adult world.
I couldn't help but fear that my eyes were being slowly drawn towards the bottom bunk, as if something was moving in the corner of my eye, something which did not wish to be seen. Ooh, ew, like the Shadow Man, that thing. You know, whenever you like quickly look at a corner and you're trying to fucking catch him.
Yeah.
The bunk was empty, impeccably made with a dark blue blanket tucked in neatly, partly covering two rather bland white pillows. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I was a child, and the noise slipping under my door from my parents' television bathed me in warm sense of safety and well-being. I fell asleep. Uh, okay, so I feel like that was like the beginning of a paranormal activity movie. Night one,
Hmm.
it's not that bad.
Night one is nothing.
Little weird, but
Night
could,
4, Mika is getting killed by what's her name? I know the entire like deep
it's
lore of
Chris.
paranormal
Chris,
activity.
no, it starts with a K. I
Well,
thought.
Mika is the main guy from the first one. He's the husband.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the girl,
And then Katie.
Katie,
Yeah, that's the
that
one girl
bitch.
that is like the catalyst of everything.
Uh, when
Those
you
movies are
awake,
good.
yeah, I know. When
Hmm.
you awaken from the deep sleep to something moving and stirring, it can take a few moments for you to truly understand what is happening. The fog of sleep hangs over your eyes and ears, even when lucid. Something was moving. There was no doubt about it. Ooh, ooh. So this was him waking up in the morning?
I guess so. Yeah.
Or, I guess it doesn't really say because it says when you awaken in a deep sleep. So, middle of the night is, I'm going to
I
guess,
guess somewhere. Yeah, somewhere in deep sleep. Yeah.
3 o'clock.
Witching hour.
At first, I wasn't sure what it was. Everything was dark, almost pitch black, but there was enough light creeping in from outside the outline, the narrowly suffocating room. Two thoughts appeared in my mind almost simultaneously. The first was that my parents were in bed because the rest of the house lay both in darkness and silence. The second thought turned to the noise which had obviously woke me up. As the last cobweb of sleep withered from my mind, the
That's an
noise.
interesting way to
That's
describe that.
that was kind of weird and also pretty
Yeah, that's
good.
cool.
The noise took on a familiar form. Sometimes the simplest of sounds can be the most unnerving. Uh, a cold wind whistling through the trees outside, the neighbors' footsteps uncomfortably close, or in this case, a simple sound of bed sheets rustling in the dark. Ooh,
Mm.
ooh. I take it back. This is not the paranormal activity. We're going hot. Fucking first night. uh, that was it. Bed sheets rustling in the dark, as if some disturbed sleeper was attempting to get all too comfortable in the bottom bunk. I lay there in disbelief, thinking that the noise was either my imagination or perhaps just my pet cat finding somewhere comfortable to spend the night. It was then that I noticed my door, shut as it had been as I'd fallen asleep. Perhaps my mom had checked in on me and the cat had sneaked
They're
into the
British.
room.
They're British. My mum.
Oh, Jesus.
They're British.
My mom. I didn't
Oi,
even.
oi.
Where did it say mom? Did I just read over that?
Yeah, you read right over it. You said my mom. Perhaps my mom had checked in on
Oh,
me,
my
but it
mom.
spelled mum.
Uh, yes, that must have been it. Uh, I turned to face the wall, closing my eyes in the vain hope that I could fall back asleep. As I moved and rustled noise from underneath me ceased. I thought that I must have disturbed my cat, but quickly I realized that the visitor in the bottom bunk was much less mundane than my pet trying to sleep, much more sinister. As if alerted too, and disgruntled.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. By my presence. The disturbed sleeper began to toss and turn violently, like a child having a tantrum in their bed. I could hear the sheets twist and turn with increasing ferocity. Fearing then gripped me, not like the subtle sense of unease I had experienced earlier, but now potent and terrifying. My heart raced as my eyes panicked, scanning the almost impenetrable darkness. I let out a cry. As most young boys do, in what the fuck is that? Instinctively shouted
Yeah.
on my mother. I could hear something stir on the other side of the house, but as I began to breathe and sigh of relief that my parents were coming to save me, the bunk bed suddenly started to shake violently, as if gripped by an earthquake. Scraping against the wall, I could hear the sheets below me thrashing around as if tormented by malice. I did not want to jump down to safety as I feared the thing on the bottom bunk would reach out and grab me, pulling me into the darkness. So I stayed there, white knuckles clenched my own blanket like a shroud of protection. The wait seemed like an eternity. The door finally and thankfully bursted open, and I lay bathed in the light while the bottom bunk bathed in oh god, and I lay bathed in light while the bottom bunk, the resting place of my unwanted visitor, lay empty and peaceful. Ooh. I cried and my mother consoled me. Tears of fear, followed by relief, streamed down my face. Yet, though all of the horror and relief, I did not tell her why I was upset. Why would you not tell her? Oh my god. You deserve it now. I cannot explain it, but it was as though whatever had been in the bunk would return if I even so much as spoke of it or uttered a single syllable of its existence. Whether that was true, I did not know. But as a child, I felt as if the unseen menace remained close, listening. My mother lay in the empty bunk, promising to stay there until morning. Eventually, my anxiety diminished. Tiredness pushed me back towards the sleep, but I remained restless, waking several times momentarily to the sound of rustling bedsheets. I
Okay,
remembered.
pause real quick. I'll be
Okay.
right back. I gotta check something.
Okay. All right. So, night one, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's creepy. Like
Pretty
there's
creepy.
nothing too crazy going on right now. Like it's kind of just like all things that I feel like all kids experience, and then they freak out. Which is understandable, of course. But
Yeah, I'm as you heard me express my feelings towards it, Jesus. Um, why he didn't tell his mom, I don't know. I'm straight up saying like, hey, there's like something in the bottom bunk. I hated every second of
well,
that.
as a kid, like you would think that your parents wouldn't believe you because kids are irrational.
That's
So
fair.
like a kid's not going to necessarily like, oh, it's probably just my mind playing tricks on me. Or like a kid is going to fully believe it, but then realize, oh, well, my parents aren't going to believe me. So I'm just not going to say anything. Because I feel like that's how I was. So,
That's fair. All right, here we go. The next day, I remember the next day wanting to go anywhere, but be anywhere, go anywhere, be anywhere. What the fuck? But in that narrow, suffocating room. It was a Saturday, and I played outside quite happily with my friends. Although our house was not large, we were lucky to have a long, sloping garden in the back. We played there often, as much as it was overgrown and we could hide in the bushes, climbing in the hedge sycamore tree,
Yeah,
which
the huge sycamore tree. Yep.
the huge sycamore tree, which towered above all else, and easily, excuse me, imagined ourselves in the throes of the grand adventure in some untamed exotic land. Oh my goodness. Oh my god. As fun as it all was, occasionally my eyes turned to the small window, ordinarily slight and in innocuous. But for me, that thin boundary was a looking glass into a strange, cold pocket of dread.
These fucking
Outside,
doors are starting to creep me out now.
your doors?
Yeah, I think it's my closet
Eh,
door.
eh,
It's like, and I'm like,
eh.
I mean, it's literally a ceiling fan, but like, it's kind of creepy now.
Yeah. Outside, the lush green surroundings of our garden filled with the smiling faces of my friends could not extinguish the creepy feeling crawling its way up my spine. Each hair standing on end. The feeling of something in that room watching me play, waiting for the night when I would be alone, eagerly filled with hate. Ew, that would be the worst.
I think he's exaggerating. I don't think there's
Probably
anything.
like a child.
Yeah, stupid child.
It's probably just like his dad.
Yeah, it's just dad playing a prank on him.
Get fucked. Uh,
Dude, what are you gonna do? Cry? Maybe piss your pants?
we're gonna piss your pants. Come.
You're gonna pee on your bed, idiot?
It may sound strange to you, but by the time my parents ushered me back into my room for the night, I said nothing. I didn't protest. I didn't even make an excuse as of why I couldn't sleep there. I simply and sullenly walked into that room, climbed the few steps onto the top bunk, and then waited. As an adult, I would be telling everyone about my experience, but even at that age, I felt almost silly to be talking about something which I really had no evidence for. I would be lying, however, if I said that this was my prime reason. I still felt that this thing would be enraged if if I so spoke, if so much as I spoke of it. I guess that makes sense, to be honest. You're a
Yeah.
child. You don't know what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you don't want to tattle.
It's like an overactive imagination. Something like that is the correct term. Yeah. Or at least that's what you would chalk it up to, you know.
Yeah. Um, it's funny how certain words can remain hidden from your mind, no matter how blatant or obvious they are. One word came to me that second night, lying there in the darkness, alone, frightened, aware of the rotten change in the atmosphere, the
Hmm.
thickening of the air as if something had displaced it. As I heard the first casual twist of the bed sheets below, the first anxious increase of my heartbeat at the realization that something was once again in the bottom bunk. That word, a word which had been sent into exile, filtering up through my consciousness, breaking free of all repression, gasping for air, screaming, itching, and carving itself into my mind. Ghost.
Oh, nice, dude.
It's
The
a
band.
ghost.
Put a picture of Ghost up on a screen, editor.
A regular ghost?
No, the band Ghost. It's a real band.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's funny.
Now I'm trying to think of something that's a ghost. That's funny. I don't know. Continue.
As this thought came to my mind, I noticed my unwelcome visitor had ceased moving. The bedsheets lay calm in the and dormant,
Dormant.
dormant. But they had been replaced by something far more hideous. A slow, rhythmic, rasping breath heaved and escaped from the thing below. I could imagine its chest rising and falling with each sorted, wheezing, and garbled breath.
Hmm.
I shuddered and hoped beyond all hope that it would leave without occurrence. The house lay as it had the previous night in the thick blanket of darkness. As silence prevailed, all but for the perverted breath of my as yet unseen bunkmate. I lay there terrified. I just wanted this thing to go and leave me alone. What did it want? Then something unmistakably chilling transpired. It moved. It moved in a way different from before. When it threw itself around the bottom bunk, it seemed unrestrained, without purpose, almost
Oh my god.
animalistic. This movement, however, was driven by awareness, with purpose, with a goal in mind. For that thing lying there in the darkness, that thing which seemed intent on terrorizing a young boy, calmly and nonchalantly sat up. It labored breathing had become louder, and
Oh my
now
god.
only a mattress and a few flimsy wooden slates separated my body from the unearthly breath below.
Breathe.
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 I lay. I need.
Dude, I feel it. I feel it. Hydrate. That's water, isn't it?
Yeah, water.
Yeah, check out my new water bottle. It's fucking huge.
Whoa!
I'd be staying hydrated now.
Kirsten got me this one.
Nice, cool.
It's got a straw.
It's got a straw. I like the straw ones, but
The straw ones are
this
not.
one just holds a lot more.
I like the ones that hold a lot more, but also I'd take a straw because it for some reason with the straw I'll drink more.
I feel it. I feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the sucking. I like to suck.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Long straws
Long straw.
and
Sucking.
extract its liquid.
I lay there, my eyes filled with tears, a fear which mere words cannot relate to you, and anyone else coursed through. God, and anyone else coursed through my veins. I would not have believed that this fear could have been heightened, but I was wrong. I was so wrong. I imagined what this thing would would look like sitting there listening from below my mattress, hoping to catch the slightest hint that I was awake. Imagination then turned to an unnerving reality. It began to touch the wooden slates which my mattress sat on. It seemed to caress them carefully.
Oh,
Running
I'm cringing of how weird that fucking is. Like, not in a bad way. Like, it's genuinely disturbing.
running what I imagined to be fingers and hands across the surface of the wood. Then, with great force, it propped angrily between two slates into the mattress. Even though the padding, even through the padding, it felt as oh god, it felt as though someone had viciously stuck their fingers into my side. I let out an almighty cry, and the wheezing, shaking, and moving thing in the bunk below replied in kind by violently vibrating the bunk as it had done the night before. Small flakes of paint powdered onto my blanket from the wall as the frame of the bed scraped along it, backwards and forwards. Once again, I was bathed in the light, and there stood my mother, loving, caring, as she always was, with a comforting hug and calming words, which eventually subdued my hysteria of cause. Of course, she asked what was wrong, but I could not say. I dare not say. I simply said one word over and over and over again: nightmare.
Nightmare. Dang it! I
Nightmare,
was hoping
nightmare,
I could
nightmare.
find that. Nightmare, nightmare.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, like, genuinely creepy so far.
Oh,
Like,
for
at
sure.
first I was like, oh, like it's probably just a ghost, but like the fact that it's like actively fucking with the child, like just messing around with it.
Yeah, it's starting to get. I feel like the pattern right now is the more it goes on without something happening, the more violent it's gonna get.
Oh yeah, for sure. But the real question is like, how long have they lived there, and why is it only targeting this kid now? Like, I know it's
Yeah,
because he's in his own room, but I feel like it would have messed with the kid before that.
like is it
So
that room specifically?
I would assume so, But then it's like, why didn't the older brother
Yeah, why
get
didn't he
that
get it?
room?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. Kind of weird. Kind of weird. All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I can pick up from here.
All right. You know where we're at? This pattern?
Yep, I did manage to remember where we are. I always end up losing my place but this time I
Let's
got it. I will
go.
lose it later though. This pattern of events continued for weeks, if not months. Night after night, I would awaken to the sound of rustling sheets. Each time I would scream as to not provide this abomination with the time to prod or feel for me. With each cry, the bed would shake violently, stopping with the arrival of my mother, who would spend the rest of the night in the in the bottom bunk, seemingly unaware of the sinister force torturing her son nightly. Along the way, wait. I managed to feign illness a few times and come up with other less than truthful reasons to be sleeping in my parents' bed. But more often than not, I would be alone for the first few hours of each night in that place. The room where the light from outside did not sit right along with that thing. Um, fucking, what was I gonna say? Uh, that would be a terrible way to grow up. Every single night you cannot get sleep.
Yeah, no, 100%. You'd almost
Like,
think
so,
that after amount of time you'd be able to just pass out because of how tired you are, but
yeah, eventually
fear.
you're going to suffer from sleep deprivation, but the fear will keep you up. So then you
Yo,
start to
100.
hallucinate, like you
Yeah,
start to lose your mind.
that'll just make it worse.
hmm Um, where was I?
With time.
Yeah. With time, you became desensitized to it. It's like you said, to almost anything, no matter how horrific. I had come to realize, for whatever reason, that this thing could not harm me when my mother was present. I am sure the same would have been said for my father. But as loving as he was, waking him up from sleep was almost impossible. After a few months, I grew accustomed to my nightly visitor. Do not mistake this for some unearthly friendship. I detested the thing. I still feared it greatly, as I could almost sense its desires and its personality. If you could call it that, if you could call it that, one filled with perverted and twisted hatred, yet longing for me, or perhaps all things. My greatest fears were realized in the winter. The days grew short, and the longer nights merely provided this wretch with more opportunities. Sorry, one sec. Where was I? And the longer nights prevailed. Okay. Let me know when you're ready to continue.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. It was difficult. It was a difficult time for my family. My grandmother, a wonderful, kind, and gentle woman, had deteriorated greatly since the death of my grandfather. My mother was trying her best to keep her in the community as long as possible. However, dementia is cruel, and a degenerative illness, robbing a person of their memories one day at a time. Soon she recognized none of us, and it became clear that she would be need. My God, she would need to be moved from her house to a nursing home. Before she could be moved, my grandmother had a particularly difficult few nights, and my mother decided that she would stay with her. As much as I loved my grandmother and felt nothing but anguish at her illness, to this day I feel guilty that my first thoughts were not of her, but of what my nightly visitor may do should it become aware of my mother's absence. Her presence being the one thing which I was sure was protecting me from the full horror of this thing's reach.
Mm.
I rushed home from school that day and immediately reached. Wrenched. Oh yeah, the bed sheets and the mattress from the lower bunk, removing all the slats and placing the old desk in an old desk, a chest of drawers, and some chairs, which we kept in the cupboard. The bottom bunk would be fuck. Hold on. The bottom bunk used to be. I told my father I was making an office, which he found adorable. But I would be damned if.
My phone went off. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. But I would be damned if I'd give that thing a place to sleep for one more night. As darkness approached, I lay there, knowing my mother was not in the house. I did not know what to do. My only impulse was to sneak into her jewelry box and take out a small family crucifix, which I had seen there before. While my family were not very religious at that age, I still believed in God, and hoped that somehow this would protect me. Although fearful and anxious, while gripping the crucifix under my pillow tightly in one hand, sleep eventually came, and as I drifted off to a dream, I hoped that I would awaken in the morning without incidents. Unfortunately, that night was also the most terrifying of all.
Mm.
Um, I woke gradually. The room was once again dark. As my eyes adjusted, I could gradually make out the window and the door and the walls, some toys on the shelf. Even to this day, I shudder to think, for there was no noise, no rustling of sheets, no movement at all. The room felt lifeless yet not empty. The nightly visitor that the nightly visitor, the unwelcoming, wheezing, hate-filled thing which had terrorized me night after night, was not in the bottom bunk. It was in my bed.
Oh
Jesus Christ!
shit! No.
Fuck that. I opened my mouth to scream, but nothing came out. Utter terror had shaken the very sound of my voice. I lay motionless. If I could not scream, I did not want to let it know I was awake. I had not yet seen it. I could only feel it. It was obscured under my blanket. I could
Ew.
see its outline and I could feel its presence, but I dared not to look. The weight of it pressed down on top of me, a sensation I will never forget. When I saw that hours passed, I do not exaggerate, lying there motionless in darkness, or motionless in white. Throw up a picture of motionless in white. I was every bit scared and frightened young boy.
So that's kind of fucking. Ugh.
So literally, the bottom bunk was like keeping him the most safe out of everything that could have happened. If it had been during the summer months, I would. There would have. Hold on. Let me restart because I'm having a stroke apparently. If it had been during the summer months, it would have been light by then. But the grasp of winter is long and unrelenting, and I knew it would be hours before sunrise, a sunrise which I yearned for. I was a timid child by nature, but I reached a breaking point, a moment where I could wait no more, where I could survive under this intimately deviant abomination no longer. Fear can sometimes wear you out, make you threadbare. I've never heard that word before.
Mm.
A shell of nerves, leaving only the slightest trace of you behind. I had to get out of that bed. Then I remembered the crucifix. My hand still lay underneath the pillow, but it was empty. I slowly moved my wrist around to find it. Um, Minimizing at best, minimizing, I don't know. At as best as I could, minimizing as best as I could the sound and the vibrations caused, but it could not be found. I had either knocked it off the top bunk or it had. I could never bear to think it been taken from my hand. Without the crucifix, sorry,
No, you're good. You're good.
without the crucifix, I lost any sense of hope. Even at such a young age, you can be acutely aware of what death is, and intensely frightened of it. I knew I was going to die in that bed if I lay there, dormant, passive, doing nothing. I had to leave that room behind, but how? Should I leap from the bed and hope that I make it to the door? What if it was faster than me? Or should I slowly slip out of the top bunk, hoping not to disturb the uncanny bedfellow?
That's wild.
Realizing that it had not stirred when I moved, trying to find the crucifix, I began to have the strangest of thoughts. What if it was asleep? It hadn't. It had so much as breathed since I had woken up. Perhaps it was resting, believing that it had finally got me, that I was finally in its grasp, or perhaps it was toying with me. After all, it had been doing just that for countless nights, and now, with me under it, pinned against my mattress, with no mother to protect me, maybe it was holding off, savoring its victory until the last possible moment, like a wild animal savoring its prey.
That's wild.
I tried to breathe as shallowy as possible. Dude, when you're scared and you're trying to breathe like as very little as you possibly can,
It's
and you just
hard.
start to like run out of breath, it's terrible. I
I
used to
hate
be
it.
like really scared as a kid. Like often. I still get scared pretty easily. Uh, I tried to breathe as shallowly as possible and mustering every ounce of courage I could. I reached over slowly with my right hand and began to peel the blanket off of me. What I found under these covers almost stopped my heart. Oh boy, here it comes.
mm,
I did not see. I did not see it, but my hand moved the blanket and brushed against it. Something smooth and cold, something which felt unmistakable, like a gaunt hand. What?
what is a
The
gaunt?
fuck is that?
A gaunt?
One second.
This must be a British thing.
A lean and haggard. Wait, hold on. A lean and haggard, especially because of suffering, hunger, or age. So like an old fucking hand or something.
Ah, it's an oldie.
It's an old little bastard. It's his grandmother,
Ah, could you imagine? Could you imagine?
bro. I held my
Yo,
breath in terror. What?
it, do you think it's his grandpa? Because his grandpa died.
Maybe. Yeah, but I'm almost wondering if they're gonna twist it like the dementia is causing the grandmother to be like a evil being.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense if the grandma was staying with them though.
Yeah, or the like grandma sneaking out at night.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, well that yeah, you're right. That doesn't make much sense because the mom would like notice that shit.
Yeah.
I
Mom,
held
what
my
are you
breath
doing
in
under my
terror.
kid's bed?
What the fuck are you doing, Grandma? Are you keeping him safe from his fake ass demon? I held my breath in terror as I was sure it must have known that I was awake. Nothing. I did not stir it. Sorry. It did not stir. It felt dead. After a few moments, I placed my hand carefully further down on the blanket and felt a thin, poorly formed forearm, literally an old person. My confidence and almost twisted sense of curiosity grew as I moved further down and disproportionately larger bicep muscle. moved further down to a bicep muscle. The arm was outstretched, lying across my chest, with the hand resting on my left shoulder, as if it had grabbed me in my sleep. I realized that I would have to move this candivorous appendage. These are big fucking words for my tiny brain.
Yeah.
Even if I so much as hoped to escape its grasp. For some reason, a feeling of torn, ragged clothing on the shoulder of the nighttime invader stopped me in my tracks. Fear once again swelled in my stomach and my chest as I recoiled my hand in disgust at the touch of strangled, oily hair.
Mm.
I could not bring myself to touch its face, although I wonder to this day why it would have felt like that. Dear God, it moved. It moved. It was subtle, but its grip on my shoulder had and across my body strengthened. No tears came, but God, how I wanted to cry. As its hand and arm slowly coiled around me, my right leg brushed along the cool wall which the bed lay against. Of all that happening to me in that room, but this was the strangest. I realized that this clutching, rancid thing, which drew great delight from violating a young boy's bed, was not merely on top of me, it was sticking out of the wall like a spider. What the fuck? Like a spider strinkling from its lair. Fucking British people.
So this thing is sticking out of the wall.
I guess so. So it's like that room, like you said, that room is haunted. Almost.
That's fucking wild.
Yeah. Suddenly, its grip moved from a slow tightening, then to a sudden squeeze. It pulled and clawed at my clothes as if frightened that the opportunity would soon pass. I fought against it, but its fuck, I know how to say that word. Emaciated arm was too strong for me. Its head rose up, withering and contorting under the blanket. I now realized that where it was taking me, into the wall. I fought for my dear life. I cried, and suddenly my voice returned to me, yelling and screaming, but nobody came. Then I realized it was so eager to suddenly strike, which is why this thing had to have me now. Through my window, that window which seemed to represent so much malice from outside, streaked hope, the first rays of sunshine. I struggled further, knowing that if I could just hold on, it would be gone. It would soon be gone. As I fought for my life, the unearthly parasite shifted, slowing, slowly pulling itself up my chest, its head now poking out from underneath the blanket, wheezing, coughing, rasping. I do not remember its features. I simply remember its breath against my face, foul and as cold as ice.
Mm.
As the sun broke over the horizon, that dark place, that suffocating room of contempt, was washed, bathed in sunlight. I passed out as its scrawny fingers encircled my neck, squeezing the very life from me. Jesus Christ. I woke up to my father offering me some breakfast, a wonderful sight indeed. I had survived the most horrible experience of my life until then. I moved the bed away from the wall, leaving behind the furniture I believed would stop it from taking a bed. Little did I think it would try to take mine and me. Weeks passed without incident, yet one cold, frostbitten night I awoke with the sound of furniture where the bunk bed used to be vibrating violently. In a moment, it passed. I lay there, sure I could hear distant wheezing coming from deep within the wall, finally fading into the distance. The real question is will it come down from the ceiling?
Yeah, that's the fucking real
That because
question.
like that's where I would sleep on the bottom bunk, or maybe it comes to the floor. Who knows? I never told anybody the story. To this day, I still break out in cold sweats at the sound of the bed sheets rustling in the night. Uh, or a wheeze brought on by a common cold, and I certainly never sleep with my bed against the wall. Call it superstition if you want, if you will, but as I said, I cannot discount conventional explanations for such sleep paralysis. Sorry, such conventional explanations such as sleep paralysis, hallucination, or that of an overactive imagination. Literally things that I all said. But I could say this. The following year, I was given a larger room on the other side of the house, and my parents took that strangely suffocating, elongated place as their bed. They said they didn't need a large room, just one big enough for a bed and a few things. They lasted 10 days. We moved on the 11th.
Ooh,
That's wild.
that's a funny ending there too. But
Yeah, so they were like, oh shit, there really is something.
that's okay. That's kind of cool, to be honest. That the parent, it's kind of weird how the parents are like, "Yeah, we don't need a big ass room. Fuck it."
Yeah, right.
uh, well, that was part one of bedtime, or that was just part one
Yeah, part
of
one of
the
the whole story.
story. What do you think?
So far, I think it's pretty creepy.
It's 100% one of those like I don't feel comfortable at all. Like it was one of those like I don't like this at all. The fact of like waking up and it's on you is kind of wild, and the fact that it was trying to take him into the wall is also kind of a weird concept, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I thought it was a pretty good story. It was a well written,
Yeah, so far, I
creepy.
think it's really fun. Yeah.
Creepy is probably like the biggest takeaway of it.
Definitely, yeah, definitely creepy. It definitely ramps up like the creepiness scale. There were a few times, and I don't really get like too wincy about this kind of stuff, at least in my opinion. But it did get me a few times. I was
Yeah.
very like disturbed would be the word I'll use, I guess.
Yeah, and it's interesting that it took the cross out of his hand.
Yeah, so whatever it was, it doesn't think that holy symbols can get rid of it. Like it doesn't care for that. So,
Yeah, that's what's interesting for sure. Because I mean,
but they did,
surely.
yeah. Well, I was going to
Oh,
say they did move. So ideally, this thing should not follow them.
yeah, that's I was. My next thing was I don't know how this guy took 5 parts out of this story. Like this seemed like a one and done. Like I don't know where we'd go from here at all.
Well,
Cause
to be honest, I feel like looking at the titles, part two, the aftermath, part three, my fears realized, part four, something wicked this way comes. I like the name of that part. Part five, sleep tight. I think it comes back. That would be
yeah,
my guess.
pretty
So,
much. So I clicked on part two, and the first sentence is after writing my accounts and a horrific experience when I was 8 year old child, many have encouraged me to speak about the aftermath. I've been
okay.
hesitant to do so, and I felt unsettled. Still, broke my silence. Sleep has not come easy for me in these last few nights. So, I guess we get more into it.
Yeah, I would only assume, yeah.
Oh, this is a lot shorter. Okay,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
yeah, but
Oh, yeah, no kidding.
yeah, I don't know. That was part one of bedtime.
Yep,
So
part one of five.
if you guys would like to see part two, leave a comment down below. And
Yeah, please let us know how we did and leave a comment about how we can't read. And
we love those.
yeah, we love those comments because they're true. I mean, what can we say? We know it. But that's kind of the whole point is the idea that it's going to help us become better readers.
We're gonna be
Possibly,
scholars by
probably
the
not.
end of this.
I refuse to. I refuse to become a better reader so that way it continues to agitate people.
Bro, I went and bought a book so I can get better at reading. I'm gonna start reading
Yeah, I won't do
outside
that.
of this. No,
There will be no character development for me.
nah, never.
I'm kidding, but
But yeah, like always, you can find the creator and the story in the description below, and this is their merch.
yeah, check
Nice.
out the store again. We are still in development of our own merch, so there will be an announcement when we do.
Exactly. So stay tuned for that. And other than that, well, we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.